Good morning and welcome in. This is 5 Clubs on Golf Channel.
You are a vital part of our game.
Thank you for having me on.
All the way to the green. Woo! Boy, was that fun.
I've always wanted to be on 5 Clubs. Thanks, Gary.
Good morning. Welcome into 5 Clubs on a Tuesday morning. Live on Golf Channel, PGA Tour Radio as well. That's Channel 92 on Sirius XM. I'm Gary Williams. This program every day presented by Century Insurance. They do business insurance, but they kind of like golf because they're deeply invested in the game. First Tee, USGA, PGA Tour, and right here at 5 Clubs. Evaluate your business insurance needs with them. They want to be right by you at Century Insurance. One thing before the tee sheet, there are a lot of indicators that things are going well for different businesses. In TV, it's ratings, usually sponsorship. For us, the break room. I mean, we got mini Utz cheese balls. We got Oreo cookies. Every time I go in there, it's getting upgraded. Klondike bars and ice cream sandwiches in the freezer. We are flying here. With that, let's get to your tee sheet on a Tuesday. Looking forward to a couple of these conversations, but we will start with Liv, the swan song. It's official now. We knew it, but now they finally begrudgingly acknowledge that they're not going to go to Michigan. They will end it this week. Some thoughts on that momentarily. Tommy Morrison, not Tommy Gunn, Tommy Morrison from the University of Texas, already a winner on the Korn Ferry Tour. He's going to the PGA Tour. Looking forward to talking with him. We had somebody from the Texas women's team on recently, Farrah O'Keefe. She was great. Texas knows how to play college golf. Texas golf, period. Amazing history there, and he is from the state, raised there in Dallas. Guy who was his captain at the Walker Cup last year at Cypress Point. He will be the captain again in a couple weeks' time. He's got his team. That is Nathan Smith, who had still a great amateur career, won the Mid-Am 4 times. He will captain the team again in Ireland at Lahinch. We'll talk to him about the selection process, the makeup of his team, and also the fact that a couple of kids that he captained less than a year ago have already won professionally, and they did it in the same week. Tommy Morrison, Jackson Koivun, and also the idea of being a player, being a captain. And there's a guy on his team who will captain the Walker Cup soon enough. So looking forward to this Tuesday here on 5 Clubs. But I want to start with Liv. We've talked about Liv since the inception of this program on Golf Channel beginning in January of 2025. And their swan song for 2026 will be this week in Indianapolis. Maybe the saddest part of all of it is that they have canceled the Thomas Rhett concert. Thomas Rhett's first foray into golf, especially when it came to television. He was the first musical act we ever had live on Morning Drive in Studio AP. That's a little factoid for you. So no Thomas Rhett concert. They won't go to Michigan. They've already had a couple players depart before this season began. We don't know where it's going, but it allows me to think about what impact it's had, because it's significant, not necessarily on what it means for them going forward, but it looked as if they were going to be as disruptive for a time as possibly the AFL was to the National Football League, which those two entities merged in 1966 when the NFL was not fledgling, but they were not what they are today, which is an absolute monolith. And then they took on another disruptive force in the early 80s, that being the USFL. I think the funnest game would be who are the USFL players who are the Liv players, like who is the Doug Flutie of Liv? Who is the Jim Kelly or the Steve Young or the Marcus Dupree or Herschel Walker? I could go down the list. I was into it, and then it went away. That lawsuit produced $3, 3 different lawsuits, $1 for each one of them. That dissolved in 1985. How about the ABA and the NBA? That merger, if you want to call it that, acquisition of 4 franchises from the ABA into the NBA, 1976. Probably would have happened much earlier if not for the Oscar Robertson lawsuit. which took years to finally resolve. But here we get to Liv, and the idea that Liv at some point was going to have some type of entryway into being an appendage or dissolved into in some form or fashion to the PGA Tour. And if not for an infamous meeting in the Oval Office a little bit over a year ago, maybe. But then it went sideways. And I don't know if the PGA Tour deliberately went Dean Smith and put up four corners and stalled him out. I think a lot of it might have had to do with Neom, that futuristic city that was being constructed in Saudi Arabia that's become an unmitigated disaster that has wasted billions upon billions, way more than the billions that have been put in to Liv. But what is the impact? I can tell you, and I can tell you pretty confidently, that I don't think Brian Rolap is the CEO and now commissioner of the PGA Tour if Liv doesn't become what Liv became. Because do you think that he was going to leave the NFL to reconstruct the PGA Tour? Highly unlikely. And how about the PGA Tour and what it looks like right now and what it's getting ready to look like, most importantly, starting in 2028? I'm not saying that the PGA Tour was not going to change, because everything tweaks and evolves and becomes slightly different, but this is going to be significantly different. And the money in the PGA Tour and the purses and the fact that Scottie Scheffler, by virtue of winning on Sunday, has already guaranteed himself to rake another $23 million check after the BMW championship, on top of all the other purse money that he has won and bonus money as well. A lot of that was already in place, but the amount of money being made. And then lastly, and for the European fans out there, how about the European Ryder Cup system? Without Liv, you don't have Luke Donald. You don't, because Henrik Stenson would have captained that team in Rome. And would have Luke Donald have been next at Bethpage? Probably not. And would he have gotten Adair Manor? Probably not. Instead, Luke Donald goes to Adair Manor looking to become the first captain in the history of the competition on either side to win 3 in a row. And think about the ones who have been cast aside, or are they out of the system altogether? Lee Westwood, Ian Poulter, Sergio Garcia, the aforementioned Henrik Stenson, Graham McDowell, Paul Casey, Martin Keimer. They had them all lined up. They had their captains for the next 2 decades. Now what? Nobody was worried about what's going on down the road, but Luke Donald, the accidental captain, because Henrik Stenson was shoved aside when he chose Liv, put him in place. And he is now somebody who I think, whether he wins or loses at Adair Manor, and they are the favorites, and I don't even know what the rosters are, doesn't necessarily matter right now. If he wins 3 in a row, and he had a great professional career, got to world number 1, he'll likely eventually go into the World Golf Hall of Fame as a contributor. You can't tell me how important the Ryder Cup is and not have the captain, who's the only one who won 3 in a row. Liv, for all of its failings and fledgling nature, right now, the impact on golf, pretty significant. We take a break. When we continue, Tommy Morrison, by way of the PGA Tour, got his way onto the Korn Ferry Tour and said, I'm not waiting. I'm not waiting to finish in the top 10, top 5, win. He'll be on the PGA Tour next year. He joins me next. A little bit later on, the man who captained him on the Walker Cup team at Cypress Point last year, who will captain the team again at Lahinch in a couple weeks' time, Nathan Smith as well. Tuesday edition live on Golf Channel and also PGA Tour Radio, Channel 92 on Sirius XM. Back with Tommy Morrison right after this. All right, back in live on a Tuesday on Golf Channel and PGA Tour Radio. That's Channel 92 on Sirius XM. Joining me now by way of the University of Texas, who was a member of the United States Walker Cup team, and by virtue of his great performances at the amateur level, collegiate level, finished 6th in the PGA Tour U ranking, which got him status immediately when he left the University of Texas onto the Korn Ferry Tour and said, you know what, yeah, top 10s are nice. How about winning, as he did in his 4th start? He's got 5 top 10s and 6 starts on the Korn Ferry Tour. He is Tommy Morrison. He joins me now. And oh, by the way, tall drink of water at 6'9". Very well-appointed room you're joining me in this morning. How you feeling?
I feel great. Thanks so much for having me on. This is a lot of fun for me.
Well, listen, it's fun for me. It's fun for the viewers. You know, it's interesting when someone like yourself makes a choice to go to a school like the University of Texas. It's like football or basketball, these great programs. You were the it kid, and then you go and you're surrounded by a bunch of other it kids. Getting acclimated to being around people who are the best wherever they came from, was that comfortable for you when you transitioned from high school junior golf to the University of Texas?
Yeah, well, that's very nice for you to say. I don't know that I was the it kid at Texas. I feel like I was surrounded by some of the best student athletes on the planet, maybe some of the best athletes in general. But I think I went to college early too, and graduated high school early, went to college a semester early, and I think I definitely just jumped straight into the deep end, and there was definitely a lot to learn quickly. But I feel like I managed it pretty well, and couldn't be happier that I got to play golf at University of Texas.
Well, you know, you got a couple of teammates who, like yourself, were so good at the college amateur level that you had enough points to have Korn Ferry status. Those teammates are already got top 10s themselves on the Korn Ferry Tour. How did you look at your summer, knowing you're going to have this immediate opportunity? How did you assess the starts you knew you had until the end of the season?
Yeah, I think later in the spring, I pretty much knew that I was going to play on the Korn Ferry Tour. Ben James and Christian Moss in the spring were playing so well, they kind of ran away from everybody to potentially get that #1 spot and play on the PGA Tour. So that was kind of out of reach late in the spring, and then I think I had got enough points to where I wasn't really going to fall outside that number 10 spot. So I was kind of just in the middle ground there, which freed me up and allowed me to play some better golf late in the spring season. And I knew that I was going to play this the back half of this season on the Korn Ferry Tour. And I didn't know much about the golf courses coming in, but I think I was pretty acclimated to professional golf. I played a couple events I played the Byron Nelson on the PGA Tour my sophomore year of college, and then got a start into the British Open around that time too. And I think I kind of understood what professional golf would look like. Obviously, coming out here, it's a lot different. It's a different ball game when you're actually the one playing in it. But I had a pretty good idea, and it got off to a great start.
You sure have. Yeah, you had a pretty good idea. For people who don't know, in 6 starts, you've already shot 63 or better 5 times. That includes shooting 61, add a couple of 64s. Did you have to change your mindset at all, knowing that those numbers were required to contend and win?
Yeah, it is pretty crazy how low you have to go. I mean, there's the depth on this tour is pretty absurd. You can't really let up at all. The second your brain starts to wander, your mind goes off. That's maybe a half a shot or a shot there that at the end of the week could cost you. But I think the golf courses in college are a lot harder than the ones that we play out here. Just maybe the way they set it up, it's super challenging, and I think a lot of times you're shooting rounds around par in college, maybe a couple under, maybe a couple over, and you're still kind of always in the fight. But you shoot anything around par and Korn Ferry Tour, just doesn't really work. You don't really have that choice. So
no, you got to be 7, 8 under just to make the cut.
Yeah. I don't know if that freed me up, but I guess it definitely got me into that mindset quickly of like, you better start going pretty quick.
Well, you did. like I said, you've already got a win. You were in a playoff as well, the 5 top 10s. You're in great position, obviously, to be on the PGA Tour next season. One other thing about college, I had Farrah O'Keefe on during the Arnold Palmer Cup week, and what a pistol she is. She's great at sharing thoughts. I would imagine the men's and women's teams, at Austin Golf Club, you guys probably shared a lot of time. And I asked her about, how can you make your teammates better at college while you're simply trying to be the best you can be? How would you answer that question?
Be there for him. I don't know what Farrah said, but I'm sure she had something good. It seems like, she's just doing everything right. She's an awesome person, and seems like she plays well every single time she tees it up. So maybe she had a better answer than what I'm going to have, but I think golf is still an individual sport, and it's tricky in college because you're on a team, but the better each guy performs, the better the team's going to perform. So whatever it may be, maybe help your teammates realize what's best for them. Some guys we had some guys in college that didn't really practice all that much, and we had other guys that were out there all day, and that's all they wanted to do, and both performed great at a high level. So maybe figure out what's best for your teammates, and always kind of remind them that that's what they should be doing.
Tommy, your answer wasn't better. It was just different. We're not grading answers here.
Yeah, that's a nice way to. Yeah, I hear it. I get what you're doing there. Yeah.
You partner with Jackson Koivun at the Walker Cup in 2 foursomes matches. Because Nathan Smith's going to be on the show here right after you, and he was your captain. Why did the Koivun pairing make sense?
It really wasn't much more than after a couple days we were on the team bus going back to, I think, the hotel, and Ben and Stu were paired together. I think Mason Howell and Waldleski were together. Ethan Fang and Preston Stout seemed like they were going to go together, and that kind of left myself and Jay Summy, Lasasso, and Koivun, and Koivun and I just kind of looked at each other and we were like, we'll go together. And that's exactly how that went down, which I wish there was a better story for that. But I think, I don't know, that's really it. And it worked out great. I was obviously the happiest kid on the planet. I think if Jackson Koivun asks you to be your partner, you don't really say no to that. I feel like he's one of the best players in the world right now. So, and has been for the last 4 years. So yeah, I was happily said yes to that very quickly.
What Tommy, about Jackson Koivun, for people who are getting to know him more, obviously in terms of, he's already won on the PGA Tour. You guys won in the same week, which there's good symbolism there. You went on the Korn Ferry Tour. He wins on the PGA Tour. What is distinctively impressive about the way he goes about it?
I think a lot of people talk about his putting. A lot of people talk about his mentality, which they're 100% right. They're both one of his great attributes, but I don't think people talk about his distance control, and it's just his golf ball control. I remember at Cyprus when we were warming up for the Walker Cup, those couple days prior, he had his quad out there, and every wedge shot, if it was playing 135, as soon as he hit it, it said 134 to 136 on the quad, whatever the number was, 95 yards. It was going to say 95 on the quad. He's just really, really good. He controls his golf ball to a really high level, and I personally thought that his distance control was like nothing I've seen before.
It's one thing I mentioned your height, and Christo Lambrecht is right there with you. There have been some tall players, but one of the things you did in the last year and a half was you really altered your diet, and you've leaned up significantly. Explain to people what you did, because it's not that you were in poor shape, but you are super lean now. How did you do that?
Well, I felt like I was getting chubby, so I wanted to lose weight, and I could definitely see it in my face. I was just big. So I went overseas to play golf the last couple summers and lost a bunch of weight over there. Started feeling better, and then when I got home, I just did they call it like a carnivore diet. I just did basically only protein for 2 months, no carbs and no sugar. And I lost a bunch of weight, and now I've kind of been at the same weight for a long time. It was not fun, and I definitely have no plans of doing it again because I love carbs.
Well, you live in the right place to get some carnivore, being in Dallas, Texas. It's funny, you know, the young man looks at his face and says it's getting chubby. The middle-aged man looks at the kettle, the gut, and goes, oh man,
Yeah.
I gotta get out and start walking. When you were growing up, you played other sports. Did playing basketball help you in any way as far as your path in golf?
I think so. I mean, playing sports in general, especially with how athletic guys are in golf now, I think any sports are great. I played basketball until I was about 12 years old, and then knee got banged up, and you kind of get to that age where if you're gonna travel and play it seriously, you got to pick one and go with it. And basketball was kind of off the table, but yeah, I mean, I love basketball. I thought it was awesome, and I had a blast doing it.
Scheffler loves basketball. Have you ever tried to pin him down in the low post? Have you ever played any hoops with him? He appears to me to be a banger. Probably tries to get away with a lot of cheap fouls. Have you ever played any hoops with Scotty?
Yeah, he seems pretty cheap. I've never played him, but I'm sure. I've actually watched him play, and he's pretty good. And I definitely don't stand a chance, but.
No, you stand a chance. I mean, you can pin it. You're 6'9". He's like 6'2" and a half. You can wear him out in the post.
Yeah, I can't really jump, and I can't really shoot. So those are not great attributes for the basketball court.
No, yeah, Jay Billis would not rate you very high in a combine preparing for the NBA draft. Before I let you go, I know that you and your teammates who had enough points to get onto the Korn Ferry Tour were paying attention to that. Have you paid any attention to how much the PGA Tour is likely to change here over the next year and a half?
I have a little bit. I think guys were talking about it. There was some meetings recently, and I really like what it sounds like they're going to do. I think guys will have a better understanding of where they're going to play, what tour they're going to play on, and what their schedule is going to look like. So I think for the most part, it's going to be a really good thing. That's kind of all I have heard or looked at. I don't really. I haven't looked at it too much. I think if the change was next year, and it would alter kind of what my season would look like next year, then I would look into it more. But I mean, it still sounds like it's going to happen in 2028. So, I've got enough to focus on right now.
Well, you focus very nicely making the transition from college golf to professional golf, already having won, being in the top 10, 5 out of the 6 starts. Before I let you go, Nathan Smith is coming up. What was his best attribute as a captain for you on that Walker Cup team?
First of all, Nathan's a clown, so make sure you have the mic, make sure you have the mute button and the edit button ready. I don't know if you can do that, but no, Nathan's awesome. He was the best captain I think you could ever ask for. I can't imagine having a better one, and I'll always remember how calm and collected he was the whole week at Cyprus. I think it's easy to probably ramp up the emotions and get nervous, and he was the coolest cat. He was the coolest cat there. Cool, and people forget how good of a player he was and still is too. I mean, how many Masters he played? 4 Masters, and it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is. 4-time Mid-Am champion. Like you said, playing in a handful of Masters tournaments as well. Hey, listen, thanks for carving out a little time. Keep doing what you're doing because you're headed to the PGA Tour soon enough. And give my best to your mom who corralled all those pictures of those dogs for all the guys on the Walker Cup team. Thanks so much, Tommy.
I will. See ya. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Tommy Morrison, by way of the University of Texas on the Korn Ferry Tour, headed to the PGA Tour. Those were winning words presented by Century Insurance. They want to be right by you when it comes to your business insurance needs. The clown himself, Nathan Smith, the captain of that Walker Cup team. Not my words, Tommy Morrison's. He's coming up next. Back in live on Golf Channel and PGA Tour Radio, Channel 92 on Sirius XM. Joining me now, he returns as the captain of the United States Walker Cup team, victorious at a little place called Cypress Point last year. They head to Lahinch here in a little bit over a week's time. He is Nathan Smith, four-time Mid-Am champion, won the inaugural four-ball with his partner when the USGA rolled out that great competition. He's Nathan Smith, joining me now from the great little hamlet in South Carolina, Georgetown, South Carolina. El Capitan, good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Love
well,
the show.
Thank you. I love having you on. It's about that time of the year. This team, and we've got it now, and as we share it with everybody, you know, I asked you this question last year, you know, and I had Snedeker on with respect to the President's Cup last week. Give everybody an idea of how you go about the evaluation and the construction of your team.
Well, I think it's similar in a way, you know, the President's Cup or Ryder Cup. You know, the World Amateur Golf Rankings are a big part of it. Wagger, you know, they update every Wednesday. I feel like everybody, you know, follows it to see what it's updated every year. But you want, you know, a little bit of that, the rankings. It's a 2-year process. This year was unique because it's back-to-back years, so it's a little bit more of a sprint. And, you know, we have a committee, executive committee, that picks the team, and boy, they really do their thorough research. But you know, you look at the rankings and you also look at guys that are hot and playing well now. So we put together a great team. It's tough because there's so many, you know, great players. So, you know, you try to get it right. And, you know, we feel like we have a great squad.
Well, you do, and you're right. I mean, there's so many wonderful players. You have 3 guys who are on that team at Cypress Point. One of them is Stewart Hagestad, who people will call the old man. You know that moniker. You live that moniker, being the Mid-Am on several Walker Cup teams. Explain to people, for somebody who he's not an old man, but in this world with kids swinging at 100 and 192 miles an hour easily, the accomplishment of someone like Stewart Hagestad to remain as good as he has.
Well, it's a test of time. I mean, how many Walker Cups has he made? It's incredible. Like you said, the game's exploding. At times, it almost feels like a different sport. I mean, with the swing speeds and ball speeds, everybody is doing. And it's evolving, you know, fast. It's become a really athletic game. And, you know, it used to be you kind of had to be big and strong. Now it seems like, you know, the more you spin the hips, the quicker you are, the fast twitch. Guys are academies, such a younger age, the ball, the club, and the game's exploding. So for somebody like that to, you know, make so many teams and be there, I know it's, you know, an advantage for us. Not only is he a great player, but when you can have somebody like that with that experience, kind of the eyes and ears to see things and run things off of, it's a huge advantage for us.
You know, Nathan, I mentioned you played that role on several Walker Cup teams. Did your captain, you know, ask of you as the Mid-Am to have a particular role that you ask as well of Stewart Hagestad now with this team for the 2nd year in a row?
Well, I played for Buddy Marucci in 2009, and I played for Jim Holgreaves in 2011, 2013. And for the 13 team, Todd White was also on the team. We had 2 mids. But, yeah, I think a little bit. I think they run some things off you or see what you're seeing. It's a similar situation, and I think maybe I can go to – I think we had the type of relationship, too, that – you know, if I'm seeing something, I can go to them and say, you know, about this player, that player, they might play well, or different things like that. Because a lot goes into it, you know, with alternate shot and, you know, wind directions. And, you know, with alternate shot, you can pick which tee you want to go off of, even or odd. So let's say if 3 par 5s are evens and, you know, vice versa with the par 3s, you get an iron player. There's a lot of strategy involved. So there's a lot of talking through the weeks. So they did. And they were incredible captains and learned so much from them.
You know, I know with any captain, getting time with a group that may be part of your team. Look, it's hard to do this. I mean, we're talking about a combination of, got a couple high school kids, you got all these college kids who are playing a ton of competitive golf, but these junkets, these team building exercises where you get these groups together, and it's not like you're going somewhere and putting your ball in a hopper. You guys have gone to some good locales. What are you trying to get out of these little get-togethers that you've done through the year?
Well, we try to get the team together as much as you can. Like you said, it's kind of everything's evolved from, now you have a couple guys who are still kind of in high school. They may play some junior events. They may get some Korn Ferry starts, some PGA starts. You still have the National Amateur Summer schedule. So it's just exploded, and you kind of have to adapt with it. Now, we got together in late December, down in Florida, and got the team together and played some alternate shot. And the guys got to know each other and everything. But through the course of the year, it's tough. It's tough to get everybody together. So we're always trying to, do that as much as we can, but it's difficult. But we got a great team and camaraderie, and we got together a few times, and the guys know each other well. And anytime you get them together, it's a great thing.
It is. Look, I know that you contribute to the USJ in any way you can, and it's nice to see you at the annual meeting every year. The development program. I'm curious. The development program is long overdue, and I'm thrilled that it now exists to develop boys and girls to reach the highest ceiling they can reach. Are there ways to introduce kids in the development program to USA Golf? Do you think that those are things that should be looked at? Like the team concept.
Sure. Well, that's a great point. I think they've done a great job, developing that program, and Mike Wand and, Heather, Chris, a lot of people that are, doing that and everything. And I think you're seeing that coming into fruition, that guys are starting to, do that and make these teams and everything. But the more you can, do that, at that lower level, you start to see the, kind of the ripple effects, of a Walker Cup team or different things, or Palmer Cup teams. So I think it's incredible what they've done, and they've adapted and seen other countries doing it. And, they're doing an incredible job developing, these young players. And I think that's what another point, we're talking about Stu and everything. It's just the fact that people are developing earlier. And even Tommy just said, I heard a little bit ago, that he was choosing, what he had to play at age 12. It's like, I'm going to focus on golf rather than, go the basketball route. So it's they're deciding at a young age, and they're incredible players. They
are. And look, you had a high school kid last year in Mason Howell. You get another one this year in Miles Russell. Give me an idea of what stands out about Miles in terms of what he's already done. Posting up medalist numbers at big-time amateur events, and now on a Walker Cup team. What is it about Miles Russell that stands out?
Well, I think it's amazing. He's, I think, and that's the thing with all these guys, with 10 guys, not only are they incredible players, but they're great people. Miles has an incredible family and mom and dad. And I think that, the way he conducts himself, I think we all know what an incredible player he is and what he's done. And we watched him this summer, and, he just keeps getting, better and better. But, he's an incredible young man, just the way he conducts himself. And, that's like the same with the other 10 guys. They're just incredible guys, incredible people. And, their play speaks for itself.
I'm curious, what do you remember in 2011 on that team? Jordan Spieth had just turned 18. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then 2 years later, he had already won on the PGA Tour after 1 year of college golf, which included a national championship at the University of Texas. What stood out about Spieth at 18?
Well, actually a lot. And it's funny because at that point, he was just going into Texas. And at that point, I think he was one of the youngest people to make, kind of the Walker Cup team. There was a lot of talk about that. And, he was still playing. He had just played like a lot of sports in basketball and everything. But Jordan was, obviously he had this incredible junior career. But when I played with him, he had this clutch gene where if you're playing a match or anything, he just would never miss a putt when you had to make it. So, I mean, that was one of those where it was like, it was just incredible for me. Like if the chips were down, he was going to make it. And I believe there was a putt over there late Saturday that we needed to kind of hang into it till Sunday. And he made it. The wind's going everywhere, and it was like this slick, 15-footer, and he made it and gave our team some life. So he kind of had the clutch gene. I don't think any of us knew that he was going to go on and just go on this incredible run and with, all these majors and just start, filling up the cup from everywhere. I mean, we were all kind of like, wow. But he developed really quickly, but he kind of had, an it factor to him. And a lot of those guys in a lot of their different ways, when you see them go on, even you just had Tommy or Jackson, you can see it. You can see it in the guys. So
yeah, of course, Tommy takes a little swipe at you. Not well received, I'm sure. Done with,
it's all
with
good.
True love.
It's all good.
That's
it's all
true
good.
love.
Jeez.
You mentioned Jackson. And his point about Jackson Koivun was, yes, the putter is really, really good and really reliable, but he talked about distance control. Does Koivun, though, and I think Miles Russell possesses this, and people who are on that 11 team said to me about Spieth, like old head, young shoulders. Is Jackson similar? Is there this? And I think, Nathan, that a lot of that has to do with feeling comfortable in an old room with people who are your elders and not being cocky, but feeling like you belong. Does Koivun possess those same traits?
Oh, yeah. He possesses all the traits. And I can tell you, as a captain, to have somebody like that on your team was just, I mean, geez, it feels like you have, Michael Jordan or something on your team. You just kind of like Gene Hackman and Hoosiers. You just kind of sit back and just watch the guys play. And listen, he was an incredible leader, incredible player, as Tommy said, not only, with the driving distance, the putting, he's got the TrackMan, the irons, but, I think what people don't see is just how, what a professional he is at such a young age, everything from working out and just the whole thing. It just was all just advanced and professionalism, and he was a leader, and it was incredible having him. And I think I don't know, just take him for all the teams. Take Sneds, anything, take him, so it's incredible.
So I'm curious, by the way, don't go full Hackman and play a man down like he did when a guy fouled out. I'm curious, so you've seen a difference in the athlete, the speed, the optimization, but I'm curious as well about the culture, because a lot of these guys now have representation when they show up at Walker Cups. They got money in their pockets. They got sponsorship. Do you do your best, not to eliminate all that stuff, but to try to keep this the way it's always been as best you can?
Well, I think there are two sides to that. I think that they do a great job of it. Like I said, the passion's still there, the love's still there. The guys want to play. I mean, I made these phone calls. You should see how excited these guys are to make the teams, and they all wanted to make the teams. And I see them at the events, and they're like, "I'm trying for you, Cap. I'm going to do this. I'm going to earn it." I mean, they want it, and I mean, that's just the first thing. Is there's a lot of passion, a lot of love, and they want it, and they keep it that way. The second is, I mean, you got to adapt with the times, right? I mean, it's like, yeah, there's a lot of money in the sport. There's a lot of agents, PGA Tour U, NIL, and you got to accept it. I mean, for me, I didn't really run for it or try to shield it. I think you got to kind of adapt with the times, and I think the players are all great guys. Like I said, you got 10 incredible young men who love the game and want to be there and go play for their country, first and foremost. But you got to adapt with it. It is what it is.
Before I let you go, it's really neat to represent your country overseas. You did it in 2011 as a player. Give everybody an idea of what these guys are going to get at Lahinch, which is one of the more interesting places, enjoyable places to play golf recreationally. What are these guys in for?
Well, we're in for a lot. Lahinch is, I was shocked when I went over there. It's beautiful. It's kind of a surf town. It's an incredible course. It's a tough course. There are a lot of dogleg lefts with maybe some wind coming out of the left. So I'm curious if some of our lefties that might set up well. There's that great par 3, kind of iconic blind par 3. But we're gonna be in for it. They've got a great team, and there's going to be a big crowd there, and we need to be ready to play. And I think they have a great team. You see that, they got a couple guys right now that control the two biggest, amateur events, the U.S. Amateur and British Amateur, and I think they have one of their best teams in a while. So we really, really have our hands full, and we really need to be ready to play out of the gate.
Yeah, you mentioned the blind par 3. That if somebody built the Dell hole here in the United States, it'd be their last commission in all likelihood. But it's one of the amazing, neat moments of an experience of playing Lahinch. To do it representing the United States in a Walker Cup will be one of the great moments for all these young men. And for you, I know how proud and humbled you are to have the role you have. By the way, how about McGinley being added to the GB&I Brain Trust? I mean, they're not messing around.
They're loading it up. They're loading it up. We knew that were coming. That's they're not allowed to do that. Come on, you can't get him. He's awesome. I've met him a few times, and he's a great guy, and he'll help them tremendously. But they're going to be loaded. But to your point, I think the guys to represent your country. Once that flag goes up, you hear the music. You know, you get a little choked up. That first tee shot's probably the most nervous you've ever been with the crowd, and it's feelings in golf that you'll probably never have again, unless you maybe make a President's Cup or Ryder Cup team. It's special stuff.
No doubt about it. It's good to have a conversation always with you. Hope I see you sooner than later. Thanks as always.
Thank you. Love the show, and thanks for having me, Gary. You're the best.
You bet. There is Nathan Smith. He is the captain of the United States Walker Cup team. We come back, give you a little preview for tomorrow. Some final thoughts on a Tuesday right after this. Back in on this Tuesday, live on Golf Channel, PGA Tour Radio, Channel 92 on Sirius XM. Tomorrow, the young man who will be part of the GB&I team that will take on the United States in that Walker Cup, Jack Whaley. His captain, Dean Robertson, said he was not really under serious consideration. And he won the Havemeyer Trophy. There was no consideration. He was on the team. The U.S. Amateur Champion will be with us tomorrow. He will join the illustrious list of dogs that we will release tomorrow as well. We do it always on a Wednesday in our picks. We got a new leader at the top of the tote board for our picks for the BMW Championship. So looking forward to having Jack Whaley on the show tomorrow. One thing that's been heard a lot over the last not just day and a half, but also going back to last week with the Wyndham Championship, is the absence of volatility as it relates to players moving in and out, whether it be of the playoffs altogether or from one event to the next. And I get it. And I think it's one of those things that's been part of the challenge of the FedEx Cup, now 20 years of age. And I'm not going to get too wrapped up in how much volatility is added next year, because that volatility is going to end. Because whatever it is in 2028 will not be what it's been over the last couple of years, what it was at the beginning. And just a simple reminder for any of the Utes out there, this whole thing was created in large measure, to get one guy to hit some golf shots once pigskins were kicked all over America. It was to get Tiger to play some golf in football season, because this used to be in September, and after the PGA Championship, which used to be in August, he shut it down. And then you got him. And it was like, okay, this is a win no matter what happens with Steve Sands and that whiteboard at Eastlake. We won already because he's playing golf. And then they had some wonky, odd, weird moments that actually in the end work out. Because when Jim Furyk gets disqualified from an event because he overslept a Pro-Am time in 2010, as he did at Ridgewood, he still won the FedEx Cup with his hat on backwards. And you're like, okay, how did that happen? And it's like, all right, we got to recalibrate things. We can't let guys get disqualified or sit out events and still win the thing. And then they come up with a whole different algorithm. Whatever it was, it always seemed to work out, but it wasn't going to work out in 2018 if Tiger won the Tour Championship, but they had instituted that staggered start/net event that they did the following year. Can you imagine trying to explain that to America? That Tiger won, but he didn't win, which was his 80th win, which preceded his 81st the next spring at the Masters of 2019. If the introduction of the net format was 2018, I don't know that we would all be sitting here today, because I don't know that sports and its civilization would have survived that Sunday at Eastlake. but it worked out. The one thing that I will say, because this to me is important as it relates to the ecosystem or the inner bubble of what 2028 is going to look like, and that is the 50, because all the players talked about that being the most important number. And then if you're in the 50, you're exempt for all the signature series events in 2027. I'm curious to know how many of them are insulated enough to be just good enough to stay in that 50 the following year, because next year's 50 does mean a lot. And the truth is that 16 players who were fully exempt in the FedEx Cup / Signature Series, all of them are not in the 50 this year. That to me is a term that you're going to hear a lot of, churn. There's got to be enough. There's got to be enough consequences, and now, soon enough, with the introduction of cuts all across the board, that if you're not good enough, there has to be consequence, because that's why the men and women who do this at the highest level are so impressive, because they get to keep doing it. All right, for all of us here on 5 Clubs, have a great rest of your Tuesday. The U.S. Amateur Champion and Dogs on a Wednesday. What else do you need? We'll see you then.